Hello everyone, this is part 11 of What If Naruto Was Trained by the Kyuubi, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. It was the following day after Naruto's test, and as the pair quickly found out, Konoha's reputation for being gossips was quite accurate. With the simple fact that it seemed many of the villagers heard he was back and quickly recognized him and already began their hateful glares and verbal tirades about the demon returning, causing the demon pair to scowl in annoyance. It was the early part of the morning, so thankfully Naruto didn't have to deal with many gazes as he walked throughout the town. However, the gazes still reminded Naruto of what he had chose to leave behind all those years ago, and seeing him again only reaffirmed his decision to do so. Natsumi, who was walking with him, wasn't subtle with her thoughts, unlike he was evident by her growls and sneers at whomever looked at her mate. Albeit in his child form currently, the wrong way. They had their first pseudo mission with their new team, but Naruto had wanted to see a certain someone before they left. Natsumi just smiled at his thoughtfulness and nodded in agreement before they left the house. They reached the veterinary office with a little time to spare before their assigned meeting for their mission. The couple walked into the office and looked around, noticing no one dropped part of their genjutsu to look like their adult selves, before spotting a brown blur run past them. To be expected from an Inuzuka, Natsumi chuckled, making Naruto nod and laugh as well before they followed the blur. They followed her scent and ended up at a door. They looked inside the window to find Inuzuka Hana tending to a large dog that seemed to have its hind leg deeply by something. The two watched with some interest as Hana worked on the poor animal that was whimpering in pain. Soon the dog was asleep thanks to some sedatives, before Hana began to stch the poor canine up. Noticing that she has finished, the pair opened the door silently. "I'll need to have a talk with your owner," Hana said to the unconscious dog, her tone ensuring pain to the owner that let this happen to their pet, that is until a pair of hands obscured her vision. "Always the caring type, Hana-chan." A masculine voice chuckled against her ear, making her perk up at recognizing the voice immediately. Hana didn't wait for the hands to move before she swiveled around to look at Naruto's smiling face. "Naruto-kun," she shouted before enveloping him in a hug. "Hi, it's me, Hana-chan. Nice work on that dog, by the way," he complimented her, returning her hug. "Arigato," she said as she released her embrace, before noticed a smirking Natsumi leaning on the doorway. "Ohio, Natsumi-san." Natsumi pouted cutely at the greeting. "Ohio, what, I don't get a hug?" Hana rolled her eyes and walked over, giving Natsumi a hug too. That is until Naruto noticed the glint in his mate's eyes, before his own widened into dinner plates when he saw Natsumi give Hana's ass a nice good squeeze, making Hana eep and jump out of her embrace. "What was that for?" she asked incredulously while subconsciously rubbing her butt, making Naruto's blush deepen even more since he was still standing behind her, getting quite the eyeful. "I already told you before that I'm making sure you're good enough for my mate, didn't I? And that was one of my tests. Very nice, by the way," she answered with a knowing grin, making Hana blush, well deeper considering it wasn't often she gets groped by a woman, let alone complimented after the fact. Hana pouted. "Well, give me some warning at least," she huffed. "No fun in that now, is there? Besides, Naru-kun seemed to enjoy it," she responded with a smirk, pointing to him. Hana was too embarrassed to look back, but inside was quite happy to know that Naruto liked that. She shook her head of that thought before coughing to try to regain her tarnished dignity. "Not that it isn't nice to see you too, but what brings you around?" "Well, as you know, we are now a part of Kakashi-san's genin team, and were assigned a mission this morning," Naruto started, before grabbing a random lollipop from a jar sitting on the desk in the corner of the room. "So I just wanted to see you before we left. And if you wanted to make plans for another date after I return," he finished with a smile. "Ah," Hana replied while mentally thinking about any plans she might have within the week. "That would be great, Naruto-kun. Alright then, how about next week, since I don't know how long this mission will last?" "Anno," She thought about her schedule again, remembering only unimportant things for the next week, before smiling and nodding. Hi, next week sounds great. He smiled widely. Okay, I'll see you when I get back and we can settle on the specifics then. He paused to walk up to her to kiss her on the cheek. Quote. Yarene Hana-chan. He finished as he and Natsumi shunshined from the office. Hana just smiled, and rubbed her cheek where he kissed her, before whispering be safe, for their mission, and then going back to her paperwork. Hokage's office. I've taken your team's request into consideration and are allowing you to take a higher ranking mission, the Hokage said, the assembled Team 7 with Kakashi present as well. Arigato Hokage-sama, Kakashi said aloofly. Right. Now then, this mission will be a B rank and the parameters will be the protection of your client until he reaches his destination, Wave Country. He briefed before letting a drag of smoke leave his lips. But because of high ranking of this mission as well as other circumstances that have come up, 2 more genin will be added not only for this mission but for all others as permanent members of Team 7, until I see fit to move them, he finished. But Hokage-sama, how can we be getting new genin now? All of the graduates from the academy for this year were put on teams already, Sakura countered, more curious than argumentative. That is correct, but as I said, there are circumstances you need not be privy to, where 2 people joined Konoha and were given the rank of genin after the evaluation test. And since Kakashi here was the one to evaluate them, I felt it only natural for them to join his team. But, Hokage-sama, she said, but was cut off by a gruff, curious and slightly agitated voice. Who are they? Sasuke asked, his posture stating he was interested as to the topic at hand. You should know one of them, or at least his reputation. He was a civilian of Konoha up until 6 years ago and has only just returned. The other is his companion. As for who they are, you can ask them yourselves. They will be here. He paused to look at the clock on the wall counting down the seconds. Quote. Now. He finished at the clock struck 9 a.m. The next moment a knock on the door to Sarutobi's office resounded throughout the room, making all occupants look anxiously. With an affirmed word from the office's owner, the door slowly swung open, revealing the 2 demon teenagers. At first Team 7 just stood there awising the 2 that began walking into the room. Sasuke immediately noted their postures being very shinobi-like, which to him caused a chill down his spine, thinking that these 2 might be strong enough to have a spar against. These 2 seem to be seasoned shinobi even if only genin. They might pose a decent challenge to test my strength against. But I'll have to see their abilities before I give them that much credit to even be on the same level that I am right now. He thought, before his eyes began to unconsciously wander the teenage form of Natsumi, and the tiniest of smirks crossed his lips. Despite him not being interested in any of his fangirls, didn't mean he didn't know when to appreciate a good-looking girl, and Natsumi was looking very good to him. Sai's reaction, while only being his eyes opening, which was a feat unto itself, was shocked on the inside. Danzo-sama will be very interested to learn of this turn of events. He mused, trying to assess the strength of the Jinchuriki before him and his companion. Sakura on the other hand was livid. Not only were 2 strangers joining her team, but one of them was the demon child, said to have left the village 6 years ago and was presumed by most of the village. And his companion was the icing on the proverbial cake that she was just forced to eat by the Hokage. Naruto's companion was gorgeous, even Sakura's pride would admit that much. And to her utter fear and loathing noticed Sasuke's approving smirk as he looked at the new girl. She had come a long way from being the complete lovesick puppy she once was back in the academy. But when a girl took a serious interest in Sasuke or vice versa, she became the devil himself. By seeing the man who had her heart on a string ogling another and worse yet better looking girl made her both afraid and pissed off, and was seriously half tempted to beat the crap out of her. Thankfully though she was smart enough to see how stupid that move would be with everyone around, but still decided to voice her hatred. Hokage-sama, for a mission like this and who Team 7 is, do we really need 2 extra people, especially these 2? She asked the aged leader, with rage ringing in her voice. Sarutobi let out a sigh. I've already explained it once, young lady. I don't feel the need to again. And I'd prefer it if you didn't think of Naruto-kun here as the Kyuubi. There are facts you are unaware of concerning him, so I suggest you hold your tongue of your ignorance on the subject lest you be taught a lesson that I'm not willing to stop. he offered, with an edge to his voice that told her that this was her only warning when breaching the subject of Kyuubi and Naruto. Naruto smirked at the aged man's defense. Seems the old monkey hasn't let his strength dwindle much despite his age. I don't see a problem with it, Sasuke interjected, eyeing Natsumi one last time before facing forward. Besides, if you need him to catch up to the standards of being a genin of Konoha, there is no better team than us to do it with, he said with a smug smirk. Granted, he was correct. Team 7 currently had the best record for missions than the other teams of their generation. Arrogant little bastard, and did I just see him checking me out? Natsumi thought, holding back the growl that was attempting to reach her tea. I agree with Sasuke-san. It would be wise to learn the ropes of being a genin of Konoha from us rather than another team, Sai concurred in his usual tone. Although the Hokage could easily read all but Sai's meaning of their words, he smiled and nodded at the decision. He just hoped that putting Naruto on this team wouldn't bite him on the ass later. But this really was the best team to put him on with so little time before the Chunin exams started. Very well, now that your team has come to a decision, granted not a unanimous one, I will leave the introductions of the new genin to you, Kakashi, so for now I will introduce your client. The moment the Hokage stopped speaking, the shinboy that was standing next to him proceeded to the door, opened it, and signaled someone to come inside. A minute passed before an odd-looking man came through the doorway, quite obviously tiptoeing on the line of drunkenness. I'm Tazuna the bridge builder, he said in a drunken accent. Welcome Tazuna-san. I have your shinobi escorts here ready to complete the mission parameters you have paid for. Sarutobi spoke in his Hokage voice. Tazuna nodded and looked at the assembled shinobi and snorted, either in disgust or drunkenness. These are the shinobi I bought. Don't look like much. I assure you Tazuna-san, they are all licensed shinobi of Konoha. Kakashi defended. And besides, if something serious were to happen I'd be there. I suppose, the man shrugged. Good. Now all of you are to report to the Norther Gates in 20 minutes. Tazuna-san wishes to get back to Wave Country with haste. Naruto, Natsumi, please wait here, I have something to ask you. Hi, Team 7 said before Kakashi and Tazuna left. What's up Oji-san? Naruto asked in a bored tone. I just wanted to wish you well, he said before a knowing smile graced his lips. And if something were to happen try not to show off. I'm sure you've noticed Uchiha Sasuke's rather arrogant mannerisms. Hi, we're just going to keep up with the facade Oji-san, not doing much of anything lest it completely necessary is how we wish to stay. He answered before getting a nod from the old man, with that both demons shunted out of the office. Konoha Gates. It was about 5 minutes from the shrine, and all the shinobi were there, and with the tensions as high as they were. Kakashi decided to try to break the ice as he had when he first met his team. So, why don't you two introduce yourselves? You can tell us things about you, your likes, dislikes, dreams, etc. He quired, getting the attention of his new team. Naruto grunted at the annoyance of the idea, but supposed that it would make sense with the deeper meaning behind it, to know at least a little bit about your new teammates. My name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. My likes are training and the things involved in it, and Natsu-chan. I have many dislikes that most of you wouldn't understand, so I'll save my breath. And I have a few dreams I don't wish to discuss with you, he answered in a huff. Why do you insist on using Yondaime-sama's last name? Sakura questioned, looking peeved. Everyone knows that after that night. She was about to continue, but Kakashi's hand on her shoulder and facial expression told her to not tread any farther. Naruto snorted, knowing that this girl was going to be a thorn in his side if not for her high-pitched voice, then from her nosiness into other people's business. A trait probably passed on within all of Konoha. I can already tell this mission is going to get on my nerves, he thought. My name is Natsumi, my likes are Naru-kun, and nature. My dislikes are more than Naru-kun's, which I will not state either. My dream is having a family, and king a certain group of people who deserve it. She finished with a sneer, but calmed when Naruto squeezed her hand in support. So she has the same dream as I do, that works out well. Sasuke mused with a small smirk, before looking at Naruto. That is if I can get her to like me over him. He concluded. Alright, well, my name is Hatake. Kakashi began before seeing a hand raised by Natsumi. We both already know who all of you are, we need not hear about pointless information. Natsumi said with annoyance lacing her words. Kakashi just smiled sheepishly at her response but nodded. Well, at least I know you guys are on time, a haggard voice called out behind them. Promptness is one of Konoha's rules, Kakashi chirped, only to get annoyed glares from his original team. 3 hours later everything was anything but prompt. Good. Then let's go. The faster we get there the faster I can get on with my real work. The new Team 7 and Tazuna grabbed their supply packs and quickly left the protection of Konoha's borders, for the starving lands of Wave. Konoha Forest. The group had only been walking a few hours, and were still in the deep recesses of Fire Country's forest. Most of the time spent walking was done so in silence, much to the annoyance of Sakura. She held her tongue however, knowing this was a mission and not a place to make a scene. The group soon passed by a rather unusual puddle that was in the middle of the dirt road. While most of the group didn't pay any attention, both Kakashi and the demon pair eyed the puddle warily. Seems they noticed too, Kakashi thought, as he noticed the hardened eyes of the pair. Quote. I'll leave this to them, maybe it'll give me a chance to see their SKS. He finished. A little while later the forest grew deathly silent, and Team 7 was now on edge. Well, for those who didn't know what was going on anyway. After surveying the area and finding nothing out of the ordinary, they began to move, until two shadows shot forward from behind them. Gotcha! One of the shadows shouted, as chains shot out of his arms and eviscerated the unsuspecting Junin. Kakashi-sensei! Sakura cried out, as Sai and Sasuke prepared for battle. One down. The second shadow said smugly, while eyeing the rest of the team, that is until a gleam of steel crossed his vision. The steel the man saw was actually Naruto's, Sautenkei's, which he had summoned, and while unsheathing the sword itself cleaved the top half of the first shadow's head clean off, making a sick gurgling sound as blood careened across the dirt road and the leaves of trees that were close by. Oni-san! The remaining shadow cried before being impaled through the chest. The sword within him then twisted sickeningly so it pointed up, before it ran up and completely through his chest and head, sending another arch of blood into the air. Both boss fell lifelessly to the floor with a thud, and small squelch, from the puddles of blood they fell into. I thought you said lay low, Naru-kun. Natsumi whispered with a pseudo-angry undertone. Naruto quickly slashed the sword a single time so the blood on the sword flew off, making the sword look as if it hadn't just been used to kill two people. Gomen, itchy trigger finger. He answered with a sadistic smirk, sheathing Sautenkei's, and unsummoned it, before looking over his shoulders at the forest. Eni Kakashi, please come out so we can continue. A rustling of the bushes soon resounded, as a body come out of the forest. Ah, so I guess your eyes weren't lying, good job you two. Kakashi said with an aloof smile. Although it would have been nice to interrogate them before killing them. Sensei, Saruka interrupted while rubbing away the tears for her supposed fallen sensei. Gomen Sakura, I just wanted to test you guys, to see if you could handle things without me always being there. Granted, our mission to Snow Country was a nice test too, but still. He said, patting the young Kunoichi on the head. Good reactions as well, you two. He praised, looking towards Sai and Sasuke. Sasuke just sneered at Kakashi's compliment. He was rather agitated at the moment with just how the situation went down. Naruto cared those two like he was a practiced shinobi already. Then his skills with that sword he summoned, he wielded it like he was as an expert samurai. While not seeming to care in the least the manner in which he dispatched enemy. I need to see what else he is capable of, maybe I can learn some things. He thought, flaring his Sharingan unconsciously. Kakashi, if Sasuke's boasts in Hokage-sama's office were true, who these two were wouldn't matter since Tazuna has the best genin squad of this generation, Naruto said matter-of-factly, knowing full well that Sasuke was probably leering at him because of his mocking attitude. Nonetheless, knowing as much intel as you can is always an advantage for a shinobi, Kakashi counted only getting a half-assed shrug from his new subordinate. Naruto has definitely changed, his cold demeanor is excellent for a shinobi, but that shouldn't mean he needs to throw out his nicer side as well. I only hope myself and the village haven't completely killed the boy he used to be. He thought lamentingly. Letting those thoughts slide, he turned to their client. Tazuna-san, would you mind explaining why the demon brothers, A-rank Nukenin from Kiri, were after you? He asked, leveling a glare. Tazuna knew he had been caught, and decided to cut his losses and tell the team the situation he was in. It hadn't taken too much of the story for the team to realize what was now happening in Wave Country, and despite both the lack of right payment and correct manpower for such a mission, the team decided to move on anyway. After reassessing their supplies, the team decided that they still had enough for the new mission parameters given, and were now off to the secret port to get to Wave. They reached the port without further problems, other than the fact that Sasuke was either secretly trying to ogle Natsumi or scowl at Naruto, which then caused Sakura to voice her annoyances at the two new arrivals. Kakashi, deciding enough was enough, told everyone to settle down, and the boat ride was silent ever since. Thankfully, it only took a few hours to reach the sandy beach of Wave Country, where the team disembarked and headed to Tazuna's house. They were walking through the dense and misty forest to his house when Natsumi threw one of her kunai in the bushes, making everyone but Naruto jump into battle formation. Once they settled down, Sakura was about to yell at her when a now bluest white-haired rabbit hobbled out of the bushes with said kunai lodged in its side. "What is the matter with you? It's just a rabbit," Sakura yelled, trying to grab the poor animal to give it aid. "Was there a reason, Natsu-chan?" Naruto mentally asked. "Mayor, I was hungry," she joked dryly, making him snort in amusement. "That rabbit has white fur," Kakashi said mainly to himself, but everyone heard him. "But white fur is for colder climates, unless they are kept in captivity." He thought before the equation clicked in his mind, and his facial expression grew shocked before lunging at Tazuna. "Everyone get down," he shouted while in midair, tackling Tazuna to the dirt road. All of Team 7's sons Naruto flew to the floor, never second-guessing Kakashi's orders. He may be a lazy ass, but when it came to serious situations he was always someone to listen to. Not a few moments later did a large bladed sword cleave the air where their heads had just been. Naruto, however, got that familiar itch again and summoned Sautenkaze, before blocking the large sword with his own. "TSH, with my chakra suppressed I can't completely block this," he thought, as the momentum of the sword was pushing his entire body back, until he gave a final push and flung the offending sword to the side, lodging it into a nearby tree. "Or, seems like I missed my mark," a gruff voice whined through the mist of the forest. "Oh well, just means I get to play with my prey before finishing 'em off," it chuckled insanely. Team 7 quickly recovered, and surrounded Tazuna with Kakashi to their back where the voice originated, and Naruto and Natsumi, who had just walked to his side, standing to their front, with Sautenkaze resting across Naruto's shoulder rather boredly. "Seems even for Genin this group is pretty decent. It's no wonder why the Demon Brothers SD," the voice said excitedly, before the mist slightly cleared to finally reveal the sword-throwing assailant. Kakashi quickly flashed through his knowledge of the bingo book, assuming that this person was another Nuke Nin, and a few seconds later knew he was on the mark. Momoki Zabuza, S-rank Nuke Nin from Kiri, nicknamed Devil of the Hidden Mist. Kakashi recalled his visible eye shone with cold focus. "It's an honor to know that the great Sharingan no Kakashi knows of me," he mocked, taking a slight bow. "Sadly, however, this isn't a social visit, so let the fat man go and you can all be on your way." His playful tone completely erased, and his business voice coming out. "You know we can't do that, Zabuza. It would be bad for business." "I'm sure you can understand," Kakashi snidely said. "Hi, I suppose I do," he answered, shrugging his shoulders. "Well, no choice then, I suppose. Can't say I wasn't diplomatic." He finished before forming a set of hand seals. Ninpu, Kirigakure no Jutsu, ninja art, hidden mist technique. Much to Kakashi's annoyance, he wasn't able to get to Zabuza in time to stop him from using his signature jutsu. "Team, get tighter. This is the first part to his Muon Satsujin Jutsu, silent homicide technique," Kakashi shouted. Not being able to see his team anymore, decided to unleash his Sharingan, hoping it might alleviate some of the mist's stubbornness. The team did as was told, and crowded Tazuna even tighter, with Sakura having a kunai out, Sai already drawing on this scroll, and Sasuke surveying the area with his own Sharingan active. The demon pair themselves just looked on as if the mist wasn't bothering them at all, and in truth it wasn't. Having demonic senses afforded them that luxury. "Seems they can handle things on their own, Naru-kun," Natsumi thought sweetly. "Hi, I doubt they'll need us, so why don't we go pay a visit to Zabuza's little helper, and have a little chat ne?" Without another word, Naruto putting away his sword, they both shunning out of the mist without anyone the wiser. Forest surrounding Team 7. A few dozen yards away from the currently brawl with Team 7 and Nuke Nin Momoki Zabuza, was a hunter nin with a Kiri mask on. Now usually hunter nins follow their targets to the ends of the earth until they can finally get rid of them, but this hunter nin was different than most. And what is a person like you doing in a place like this, any Hunter-chan? A smooth voice called out, startling the shinobi, never even feeling a presence. The hunter nin quickly turned with a senbon needle in each hand to face whoever it was that had sneaked up on her. She was about to attack when the mist that shrouded the two standing there dissipated and she noticed who it was. Ho! How did you find me? A young feminine voice called out, thought the mask. Naruto took the initiative of answering and just tapped his nose a few times, getting the point across. You reek of that man, so it wasn't hard to find you, nor realize what your real motives are. Natsumi answered rather bluntly, her words causing the shinobi to tense her body for a fight. No need for that, we didn't come here to fight, cause if we did, you'd already be s. Naruto responded, seeing her jerky movements, his jovial tone growing cold as the sentence went on. Besides, the seats are better up here. He concluded, reverting back to his nonchalant tone. Gomen, but you'll excuse me if I don't quite believe you, the nin stated, body tensing even more now. Believe what you want then. Natsumi countered with a shrug, while taking a seat next to her mate who was already sitting on the branch watching the fight between their team and Zabuza. What with these two? It's like they don't even care if they're Team SS. The nin thought, quite confused at the turn of event. Nearly 5 minutes of pregnant silence surrounded the trio, before the nin decided to let her guard down slightly and take a look back at the ongoing fight. The demon pair smirked at her ease returning but paid no real mind, quite enjoying the show they were watching. However, when Naruto saw Kakashi get caught in Zabuza's Suiru no Jutsu, water prison technique, he decided to pick up the conversation with the hunter girl. You know, your Kekkei Genkai is being quite wasted for Zabuza's sake, I think, Muz. He said nonchalantly as if discussing the weather. The nin physically stiffened and drew her senbon again. Somehow this boy knew she had a blood limit and she hadn't even used it. How do you know I have one? She asked, her eyes if seemed written with worry. Natsumi decided to answer for him, as Naruto seemed to be enjoying the fight, after Zabuza was just forced to release Kakashi. She simply turned her head and gazed into the nin's own. These eyes of ours can see more than most people would like to admit to, could ever hope to witness, or possibly imagine. She answered cryptically but getting the general message across. The hunter nin was rather scared of these two people right now. So much of what they had done up to this point shouldn't have been possible. Sneak up on her undetected, king her if they liked. Able to see she had a blood limit without her even using it, and even leaving their own team to fend for themselves versus Zabuza. Who are you? Was all that came to mind to ask. Her thoughts were too jumbled to ask a more relevant question. The two just looked at her with a smirk, laughing lightly that was the first question she'd asked them. Although there were better questions to ask than that one. We can oblige you, I am Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, and this, he paused while thumbing to his mate, is my mate Natsumi. Now who may I say we are speaking to? He asked. Ha, Haku, the nin answered dumbly. Ah, Haku-san, now tell me, why are you following Zabuza around for? From his demeanor he doesn't seem to hold you in very high regard. He inquired. She paused, looking over to watch Zabuza for a moment, conviction coming back into her posture and voice. He saved me from my past. I am repaying him by being his tool to do with as he sees fit. She answered confidently, making the demon pair nod in affirmation. I suppose I can understand that. But being a tool isn't something that defines you as a person. You should make a goal for your own life. Just because he saved you doesn't mean you need to devote yourself to him. If that kind of thing were true, I'd owe my life to Natsumi as well, since she did the same for me many years ago. You can thank someone for helping you bring you back from the brink of oblivion, maybe even feel a debt is owed. But Zabuza is the type of person to never accept that with a grain of salt. He will always take, and never allow you to live your own life because he knows you'd never have the backbone needed to leave him. I think you need to think long and hard about how your life has been since you've become his tool. Then think about if that's what you want for the rest of your life. Shinobi like us have sporadic lives, that can end at any time, so we should live by the beat of our own hearts and try to be as content as we can for as long as we can before the Hinagami claims us. I have tried to do as such, and I can tell you I'm much happier now with who I am than I was way back then. So if I think I understand your situation the way I think I do, I believe you will be happier as well. Think about it, Haku-san. Naruto finished his sage-like rant while still enjoying the fight, which appeared to be at its end. Haku listened to this boy's words. She would never believe that someone from Konoha, a village that is notorious for its citizens being one big family, would say such a thing. And yet the eloquence of his words, and strong meaning, told her that he really did go through something similar that she did. And despite her usual steel-edged loyalty to the new nin before, a small voice in the back of her mind told her that Naruto spoke the truth about how she was currently living her life. She honestly had no idea how this boy spoke with such reverence that one would think it coming from a wizened old man who's lived his life and learned many harsh lessons while on the path of life. Although not admitting it to herself, Naruto had sowed the seeds of doubt inside her mind and heart, about her own continuation as Zabuza's tool. If you wish to save your master, I suggest you do it now, Haku-san. We can talk another time. Your scent is unique, so it won't be hard to find you if we wish to. Natsumi stated, knocking Haku's current thoughts away, and the ones left now were to save Zabuza. Haku hesitated only slightly while taking one last look at the demon pair before throwing her senbon needles into Zabuza's en, and then, shunshing to his side, giving Team 7 her usual speech about helping her with a dangerous nuke nin before shunshining them both to safety. Time to go back to the peanut gallery, I guess, Natsumi joked, before feeling a tug on her flak jacket, only to meet her mate in a rather heated kiss that left them both gasping for breath. Wow, Naru-kun, what I do to deserve that? She purred out questioningly with a grin and glazed over eyes. Nothing. I just needed my fix, he joked back, licking his lips of the remnants of her taste, making her smirk in response. Well, warn me next time. Thought I do so love the spontaneity, she said, her grin growing slightly, before they both shunshined a few yards away from the worn-out Team 7. Team 7 was recovering from their heated battle with Zabuza. Sasuke and Sai helped to get their chakra exhausted though still conscious sensei on a stretcher, while Sakura aided with medial bandages on his wounds. In the meantime, the demon pair came strolling through the forest, onto the scene, making all but Sai leer at their inactiveness throughout the fight. Where the hell were you two? Sakura shouted. We were having a little chat with Zabuza's accomplice that you just let grab him and escape, Naruto said boredly. All of Team 7 looked at the two in confusion. The person who grabbed Zabuza was a hunter nin from Mist, not his accomplice, they all thought. Kakashi, though, after a moment put the pieces together, and looked emotionlessly at the pair. And why didn't you stop him if you knew he was with Zabuza? The Junin questioned. We wanted to have a chat, and fighting isn't very productive in that area, Natsumi said, not caring in the least how the fight ended up with her teammates, before she noticed Sasuke eyeing her hungrily, confused and annoyed, until she noticed her slightly glistening body thanks to the mist jutsu Zabuza had cast. Besides, you are the best genin team, remember, right, Sasuke-kun? She cooed out, inwardly smirking about teasing him before breaking the poor boy's spirit. Granted, he deserved it for ogling a taken woman with her mate being not 2 feet next to her. Sasuke's demeanor slightly perked up at her name for him and tone she spoke with, making him smirk. While Sakura just cursed the girl and ground her teeth together so she wouldn't yell at such an inopportune time. Well, at the very least, did you get any useful information out of him? Kakashi said, noticing the situation growing rather tense. It was mostly questions that we wanted to know, but useful to Konoha. I suppose only that her name is Haku, and she has a blood limit. What it was we couldn't discern because of the abrupt ending to the fight, Natsumi answered, making great pains to emphasize that the hunter nin was a female to the Junin. If she had to make a list of her top 3 hated things: 1. Orochimaru and snakes, 2. Perverts, unless it's Naruto, and 3. Cysts. So you left us for S, so you could have a stupid talk with her? Sakura asked accusingly. Naruto shrugged. Meh. I knew you guys could handle it. If you couldn't, you wouldn't be very good Konoha shinobi now, would you? Naruto questioned, getting heated glares from Sakura, because he was so careless about his teammates, and Sasuke, because he was acting superior to everyone but more importantly to him, as well as being allowed so close to Natsumi instead of him. Naruto noticed the glares, and sighed in defeat. If nothing else, he didn't want him to report to the Hokage. Neither he nor Natsumi helped them during the mission. We'll take Kakashi, you guys should rest. He began while grabbing the end of Kakashi's stretcher, while Natsumi grabbed the front. Tazuna-san, which direction to your house? He asked, making the bridge builder jump up startled after the rather intense fight he just witnessed. Oh, it's about 3 miles west of here. He answered after getting the nervousness out of this system. With Sasuke and Sai in the front, Tazuna led Team 7 from the middle of the group to his house, which they soon reached without any more interruptions. The group was quickly introduced to Tazuna's daughter, Tsunami, and were given the lodging they desperately needed after such an exhausting day. Team 7 quickly went to sleep, hoping the next day would be a little less adventurous than today had been, so they could recover some of their lost strength. The next day all of Team 7 felt well rested aside from Kakashi, who was still suffering from slight chakra exhaustion. Kakashi, however, now knowing that Zabuza was still alive, realized he'd need to train his team before they fight Zabuza again. Their first encounter was far too close for the Junin's comfort, and needed his team stronger if they had any hope with defeating him. Especially now that his accomplice had a known but still unknown blood limit. It was the early morning and the group, including Tazuna's family, had just finished a hearty breakfast thanks to Tsunami. Team, Kakashi called out after the plates were cleared from the table. You need to get stronger before the next time we meet Zabuza, especially with his accomplice now known to us. So get your gear ready and meet me outside in 5 minutes. He ordered, dismissing his team while crutching his way to the door of the house, Naruto and Natsumi heading in the same direction. The 5 minutes ended and the team was once again in their shinobi garb, awaiting Kakashi's instructions for their training. Alright, follow me, he said, heading towards the beach that was close by Tazuna's house. They reached the sandy beach, before Kakashi, slowly but surely, began to walk across the water until he was a few feet out and looked back to his pupils. How are you doing that, sensei? Sakura asked in astonishment, getting a grunt from Sasuke, and a slightly interested expression from Sai, with Naruto and Natsumi looking on boredly as he expected. I'm simply using my chakra to stand on top of the water, as now you 5 will attempt to do for your training. Though I should warn you, the water is rather cold this early in the morning. He explained with his usual aloof smile on his face. How can this help us other than the obvious advantage of being able to fight on water? Even though I don't plan on making a habit of it, Sasuke spoke up, wondering just what his lazy sensei was up to giving him this kind of training. Are quite observant, Sasuke, and you are right, there is another reason I wish for you to learn this ability other than the practical purposes that you are looking at now. And that's to build up your chakra control and reserves. He responded. Kakashi, though I appreciate the opportunity to train. I'm afraid I already know how to water walk, Naruto interjected boredly. Somehow I'm not in the least surprised about that, the Junin CSPLE thought. I see, well I'll assume that Natsumi over there knows how to as well. So in that case I'll have these 3 begin this exercise and I'll start you on something more advanced. He offered. Naruto raised his hand. If it's alright with you, I'd rather just train with Natsumi alone, it's rather awkward, after 6 years with just her, to train with other people. He answered back, though with a tone that really said he wasn't giving the Junin an option. Kakashi quirked a brow, but nodded nonetheless. Very well, I'm sure it'll take some getting used to train with other people, so I'll let you go, but try to stay close in case something happens, alright? He negotiated, getting a nod from them before they shunshined away in a swirl of leaves, shocking the 3 genin. Shunshin. Those 2 must have done some serious kind of training to be that tough and be this young. Then again, losing to Naruto should have given me enough proof, but still, just what kind of training did he do? Kakashi thought, while making a mental note to interrogate the old man, to see just how damn strong those 2 really were. They can do Shunshin. Sakura gasped. She knew it was a regular skill for most Chunin and Junin, but to see 2 fresh genin be able to do it, as well as everything else Shush's seen, made her question just how strong those 2 really were. Both Sai and Sasuke had the same thoughts as the other 2, but for totally different reasons. Seems I will be needing to write quite a lengthy report about this mission to Danzo-sama thanks to Naruto-san, Sai lamented. Nobody likes paperwork. How can this guy use such a high-level jutsu? He hadn't even gone to an academy to learn about be a ninja like me, and yet he appears to be more powerful than I am, and I was the rookie of the year. There is something strange about him and I need to figure out what, and if I'm lucky I'll be able to learn a few of his jutsu for myself. Sasuke thought, pondering about the new guy. Alright, well, you three should get started on this, Kakashi stated, knocking the there from their thoughts. And here is a clue about how to accomplish it. Think about how you do tree walking but add in the fact that the surface you are standing on is now moving. He advised before walking back to shore. The original Team 7 nodded in understanding and soon attempted to accomplish their new training. With Natsumi and Naruto, in a clearing within the forest near Tazuna's home, two odd swirls of leaves appeared out of nowhere, and from the leaves stood our two demon teens. Naruto, swiftly taking advantage that they were finally alone, moved behind his mate and wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her against him. Natsumi was a bit shocked at his actions. She had honestly thought Naruto had really wanted to train, but to her his actions were certainly a nice truth to the matter. Oh, wanted another fix, Naru-kun. She purred to him, as she rested her arms on top of his. Perhaps Natsu-chan, but I just wanted some time alone with you and relax a little, he said, before he pulled her with him to sit down next to a large tree. The pair got comfortable before just looking out at the forest, enjoying the scenery and company. Natsumi turned so she was on her side and rested her head in the crook of Naruto's shoulder. Although what you said, it was quite true. I'm just curious on what you planned on telling Haku-san if she decided to leave Zabuza, she murmured out, already feeling his warmth lull her into a state of sleepiness. At the time I didn't actually think about it. I kinda just said what came to my mind about my feelings on the topic, he confessed with an embarrassed smile. But I have been thinking about it, and I think that if she does decide to leave Zabuza I will allow her to stay in our compound until she decides what she wants to do with her life, he finished, getting a purr as her response. Sounds like a plan, Naru-kun, but you might just want to warn Hana, she offered, leaving the idea of what might happen if he didn't up to his imagination. Hi, I will let her know of the situation if it happens, he responded, letting the conversation ess and just relax in each other's arms before they both fell asleep. It was the middle of the afternoon, when a rather loud crunching noise awoke the sleeping demons. They would have reacted much differently had they smelled an unknown person, but the smell of Zabuza permeated the air and they knew exactly who it was. Well, speak of the devil, Naruto whispered to Natsumi with a chuckle, before seeing Haku in a pink kimono walk around a tree and into the clearing. Haku, apparently preoccupied with something, failed to notice the two sets of eyes that stared bemusedly at her and her actions of picking herbs. Afternoon. Haku-san, a gruff voice pleasantly greeted, startling the poor girl almost to death. Haku's shinobi senses were soon on full blast, her head swiveling from side to side to find her assailant, before her gaze was fixed on the couple still resting against the tree. Once she recognized them, her tense body relaxed, before giving a small smile. Good afternoon, Naruto-san, Natsumi-san, she returned the gesture, before curiosity got the best of her. What are you two doing all the way out here? She questioned. Just relaxing, as you can see, Natsumi answered, while snuggling deeper into Naruto. What about you? He questioned, picking medicinal herbs for Zabuza-sama, her warm tone dimming slightly. So I take it you haven't quite decided on what to do about what we talked about? He probed. She began before stopping and looked down at her feet. Quote. I don't know. While I admit that my life with Zabuza-sama hasn't been the best, it's still tremendously better than how my life was without him, she confessed, letting the pair know she at least thought about his words after she left. And perhaps being his tool isn't the best thing for my life. But I do owe this life to him, and there was nothing else that I could offer him at the time. Quote. She paused before talking, a self-examination of her teenage body before shaking her head in what appeared to be disapproval. And besides, even if I did leave, what then? I have nowhere to go, and I don't know anyone who would want me around. I've been with Zabuza for 7 years, and anyone I used to know either wants me or is themselves, she finished, and by the tone in her voice already seemed to make up her mind about the topic. Natsumi just shook her head in disappointment with what appeared to be Haku's unspoken decision. First off, you are lucky I'm so damn comfortable where I'm at. Or else I'd have smacked you for even considering offering yourself to him in that fashion. You should have more self-respect than that. She growled out, making the girl look away ashamed. As for your problem about what to do afterwards, it's rather ironic that you should mention that considering that only a few hours ago Naru-kun and I were discussing the same exact thing. And came up with a proposition should you decide to choose freedom over slavery. She explained, letting her words sink into the young teen. Haku looked back in shock from Natsumi's cryptic words about her decision. But even so, the little voice in the back of her mind hoped that it wasn't something degrading. What was it? She stuttered out, fear and curiosity clearly evident in her expression, making Natsumi smirk in satisfaction. Oh, how she loved to make people squirm, Naruto especially, but for other reasons. Oh, just that if you did decide to leave him and finally live your own life, Naruto would offer you our home in Konoha until you decide what you'd want to do. Haku looked even more surprised now, and she'd have smiled over the offer if not for the fact that her home would be smack dab in the middle of the same village she currently had to fight to do her job for Gato. She gave them a sad smile. Arigato for the offer, but I highly doubt I would be welcomed in such a place, after what has and probably will happen between myself and your team. She replied, bowing in appreciation, making Naruto snort in annoyance. Trust me, with me as your landlord, you will have nothing to worry about when it comes to being ridiculed in that village. He reassured with venom deep from every word, making Haku look at him curious as to the meaning behind his words. After hearing the boy's words, and seeing firsthand just how strong he seemed to be, her hopes were raised that much higher, and the two could see it in her eyes. Suddenly the pair's eyes focused into an icy glare, before turning to their right. Gomen Haku-san, but our conversation will have to be postponed once again. One of our teammates is approaching, so I suggest you gather your herbs and make haste. But do not forget our offer. Natsumi stated, her tone changing from venomous to warm. Haku by now knew not to underestimate the two teens and nodded, before quietly leaving the clearing. A few moments later Sasuke strolled into the clearing, his hands inside his pockets, his Sharingan activated, looked directly at the two. Who were you just talking to? He questioned in a ridged tone. Someone who was picking medicinal herbs, before they had to leave. Naruto answered truthfully, unconsciously sliding his hands up and down the sides of Natsumi's hips and sides, making her purr against his chest. Sasuke noticed the affectionate touching Naruto was giving her, and his lips turned into a scowl while the tomo in his eyes began to spin dangerously, trying to intimidate the blonde. Then it was no one important. I just wanted to be sure it wasn't that Haku person, so I knew you weren't planning on betraying us. He accused with a sneer. Even if it was her and we were planning on betraying Konoha, not that it doesn't deserve it, what could you alone do to stop me, let alone both of us? Naruto questioned nonchalantly, making Sasuke twitch in rage. Well, I wasn't planning on humiliating you in front of Natsumi. Granted, I don't know why she is with a person like you when she can be with a true shinobi like myself. But I won't steal her from you either, she'll eventually come to me of her own free will from witnessing my strength after I beat you. Plus Kakashi told me to not pick a fight with you, but I think I'll make an exception this once. He stated firmly, getting into his family's taijutsu stance, kunai already in hand. Naruto just grunted in annoyance, and gave Natsumi a loud, wet, French kiss, purposely making their battling tongues easily visible to Sasuke just to rile him up more. Naruto wasn't disappointed in his foolish reaction, seeing Sasuke not even wait for him to get up before launching himself at the blonde. The only problem was that the moment his feet kicked off the ground he felt two sensations of cold metal at both sides of his T. I didn't even see him move. Sasuke thought, while taking an audible gulp. Sasuke, I suggest you refrain from attacking not only an unarmed shinobi, but one that wasn't even ready for the battle. That is unless you mean to assassinate him, and if that was your goal here, the talking to your target was the most foolish choice you made. Naruto advised emotionlessly, making the hairs on Sasuke's end stand on end at the cold and empty tone. How the hell is he doing this? Sasuke mentally shouted, as the words of his brother began to resonate in his mind, and his Uchiha pride began to boil within him. Naruto was about to pull his kunai away, when he felt Sasuke's stance shift, and was forced to jump back from a back kick Sasuke just tried to land. Don't think that after only one move, this fight is over. My eyes can see everything, you can't defeat me. I'm prepared this time, you won't sneak up on me again. Sasuke retorted seriously, getting into his family's stance again. Naruto just sighed loudly, getting into a well-known and rather mediocre taijutsu stance. Naruto just waited patiently for Sasuke to make the first move, which after about a minute of a standstill occurred when Sasuke launched his kunai with sly aim, before phasing out of sight. Naruto leaned to his side to avoid the kunai, and used his forearm to block Sasuke's heel kick from above. Naruto grabbed Sasuke's prone calf and spun him in a circle before launching him towards a tree, but was disappointed to only hear a chunk of wood crack against the tree. The little bastard is talented, I'll give him that. Naruto complimented, while looking for the dark-haired boy who seemed to have disappeared. Kaiten, Gukakyu no Jutsu, fire style, great fireball technique. A voice behind Naruto yelled, before a ball of flame shot through the trees right for the blonde. He'll need to do better than that, using such a multi-sensory jutsu is pointless for sneak tactics. Naruto mused, while shaking his head, and jumping out of the way, letting the fireball scorch the forest around them. The barker is gonna burn down the damn forest. He grunted, before performing some hand seals. Quote. Suten, Baku Susha, water style, bursting water collision waves. He yelled as a column of water shot out of his mouth towards the flames, and extinguished them in mere seconds. The water finished exiting Naruto's mouth, who was just then socked in the jaw by an opportunity awaiting Sasuke. Naruto spun through the air in a beeline towards a tree. The moment his head was set down into his body, said body puffed into a plum of smoke, making Sasuke look in shock. A bushin. But I was able to hit it, that can't a normal bushin. He thought, before he felt a quick but sharp pain in the back of his as his vision went black. Naruto was behind the knocked-out Sasuke, and just sighed once more, before shaking his head and lugged the unconscious Uchiha over his shoulder. Well, that was certainly entertaining, Natsumi said, reaching her mate's side with a smile. Not really, but at least I know the arrogant ass isn't talentless, he grunted. I suppose, though I do enjoy the fact of men fighting over me. She teased with fake sparkles in her eyes like something Sakura would do. TSH, sorry but you're mine and mine alone, Natsu-chan. Sasuke can fight me as long as he wants, but that fact will never change. Naruto answered sternly, playfully glaring at his giggling mate. Hi, Naru-kun, and besides I doubt he could ever pleasure me quite like you can, nor have the stamina like you do, she cooed out seductively while licking her lips hungrily, making him blush. Certainly like knowing I can, but I think we should hold off on this kind of talk until we are alone, right? Itachi. Naruto finished, his playful tone going back to his emotionless one in an instant, while looking towards the blackened forest. Ah, so you noticed us? Very good, Naruto-kun, very good. Quite the little show you put up. A voice as emotionless as Naruto said, before two figures emerged from the forest. Seems my Ototo wasn't quite as observant, however, a shame he is still so weak. Though I do wonder how you knew who I was. I highly doubt you came all this way just for a family reunion. Natsumi cut in, leveling a glare at the two uninvited guests. Itachi, can I do away with the girl? She doesn't seem to be that important to our mission, the towering man next to the cloaked Uchiha asked, while fingering the large bandaged sword on his back. No, Kisum, something about this girl is different, similar to Naruto, but still different. Leave her be, for now, the elder Uchiha answered, his Sharingan clearly awising the two teens in front of him. Would you mind telling us why you are following us? Naruto asked, with a huff of annoyance. That is something you will learn in due time, Naruto-kun, all in due time. He responded cryptically. Then I'm afraid you'll have to wait all in due time to find out how I knew it was you. And if all you are going to do is observe us and try to find out how strong I am. I wouldn't hold my breath if I were you. And if that really is your reason for being here, then get out to the way so we can get back to Tazuna's. He barked, as he and Natsumi began to walk up to the two cloaked figures. Naruto walked up to Kisum and leveled a glare at him, only making Kisum smirk in a sadistically happy way, before both cloaked men moved to the side to let the trio past and into the direction of Tazuna's house. The Akatsuki pair just watched as the teens blurred out of sight from the darkened forest. No sooner did they Did a large blast of inhuman ki envelope the area, causing their knees to buckle slightly at the force, and a demonic voice call out. Itachi, I suggest you advise Kisame to hold his tongue when it comes to my companion, lest he wish for a shortened life. A second warning will not be issued. The voice echoed throughout the forest like a prowling beast, before the ki finally released the pair when the voice disappeared. That was. Kisame started, his voice actually shaken slightly, before being interrupted by his partner. I suggest we contact leader Sama, he will want to hear of this new circumstance concerning the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Itachi interrupted before shunshunning out of the forest. Itachi kept the fact that a sliver of fear crept into his heart and mind from the combination of the voice and ki. For a moment he didn't believe he felt what he had, and yet he knew deep down he had, which unnerved him if only slightly, but it was enough for his concern and excitement. You will certainly be challenged, Naruto-kun, get stronger, much stronger, before we meet again, so that I may test my strength against yours. The elder Uchiha warned, before memories of what happened ran through his mind. I do wonder what those waves coming off you were, however. He mused, recalling strange waves flowing from both the demon pair. Tazuna's house. Kakashi-sensei, they've been out there for hours. We need to go look for them, Sakura argued against Kakashi's orders to stay in the house. No need. A voice called out from the archway of the front door, making the residents of the house turn towards it. The demon pair looked boredly at the group before walking in the house, with Naruto unceremoniously throwing Sasuke onto the couch before joining Natsumi at the dinner table to eat. Sasuke-kun. Sakura screamed, seeing the raven-haired boy obviously unconscious and bruised. Should I even ask what happened? Kakashi asked, who simply shrugged in response. He challenged me to a fight, this was the result, Naruto stated nonchalantly, before going back to eating. I see. I'll need to talk with Sasuke, he is walking down a dangerous path right now, and I need to get him back on track. But with Naruto around that will be a lot harder said than done, especially if Naruto actually begins to try on this mission. The Junin concluded in his mind before glancing at the damage done to Sasuke. The rest of the night was rather quiet in Tazuna's house, with everyone doing their own thing. Tazuna's family, Sai, and Kakashi did whatever they wished, while Sakura held fast, taking care of Sasuke. The demon pair just continued their actions in the forest in their bed, enjoying the closeness until they fell asleep. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.